Have you ever noticed the black bubble on the ceilings of retail establishments, malls, sometimes schools and hospitals, certainly casinos? Those are not lights, but cameras. Big Brother is watching you. Hi, I'm Rex Rogers, and this is episode number 256 of Discerning What Is Best, a podcast applying unchanging biblical principles in a rapidly changing world and a Christian worldview to current issues and everyday life. America is a free, open, pluralistic society wherein citizens possess God-given human rights, life and liberty, and government civil liberties, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, right to a fair trial, and perhaps right to privacy, and also civil rights, equal access to education, health, protection against discrimination based on race, sex, religion, and so forth. We rightly value our freedoms, including freedom of mobility. Now, there are many more such protections built into law enforcement and criminal justice procedure. Things like needing a warrant to search a home, needing probable cause to arrest someone, or a right to an attorney. Of course, one of the most important principles of all is the legal principle, innocent until proven guilty. This phrase does not appear explicitly in the United States Constitution. Like the right to privacy, it's a principle derived from several constitutional protections. The Fifth Amendment guarantees due process of law and protects against self-incrimination. The Sixth Amendment guarantees a fair and speedy trial, an impartial jury, and the right to defense. The 14th Amendment extends due process protections to the states. The key Supreme Court case is Coffin v. United States in 1895, in which the court clearly affirmed that presumption of innocence is a fundamental principle of American law. I mention all this because these treasured freedoms, many of which are not available in most countries, because they create both protection of independence and privacy and a challenge to instituting and maintaining security. For example, how does law enforcement at any level track and apprehend domestic terrorists? Well, they do so by investigating and interviewing known associates or simply witnesses or neighbors, surveillance, searches, snitches, undercover officers, audio-visual recordings as in, is he wearing a wire, and the review of online activity and financial or other personal information. Now, law enforcement officers are not omniscient, nor clairvoyant, so they don't know who is innocent or guilty. So for them to investigate and track a bad guy, they must talk with, perhaps take into custody, even if briefly, pressure, i.e. threaten, people with legal action against them, against some unrelated issue, and maybe put this person who is innocent of a crime at personal risk. Now, herein lies the rub: freedom versus security. If freedom is maximized, law enforcement can be curtailed, not able to learn what is necessary for finding and apprehending truly bad and dangerous actors. If security is maximized, law enforcement may, sometimes intentionally, but often unintentionally, treat innocent citizens like criminals. If you watch crime shows or movies on television, you see the conundrum played out regularly. Programs like the long-running Law and Order and its spin-offs. Same for NCIS and its subsequent programs. Older programs like Hawaii Five-0 or The Closer, Rizzoli and Isles, even Blue Bloods, various detective programs, and newer programs like FBI, CIA, or Chicago PD. In all these programs, sooner or later, and usually quite often, this tension between freedom and security is played out in the plot. Sometimes it's the focus of the plot, meaning we watch the fave protagonist wrestle with his or her ethics in just how far they are willing to go, maybe a tad over the line, in jerking around the innocent parties, violating their rights to catch the bad actor. For some programs like Chicago PD, this is a motif of the show, especially with the intelligence unit boss man Sergeant Hank Voight leading investigations into the city's most formidable offenses: drug trafficking, organized crime, high-profile murders, and other large-scale felonies. He often crosses the line, even expecting his young officers to follow him because his ethics are, shall we say, the ends justify the means. This is one of the reasons I no longer watch this program, at least not very often, because for me it's too ruthless, too cop vigilante. And it's one reason my wife and I always enjoyed Blue Bloods. wherein this kind of thing happens from time to time in terms of realism. But for the most part, this show's motif is the Reagan family's commitment to the law and integrity. In this sense alone, Blue Bloods and Chicago PD are dramatically different programs. FBI is a good law enforcement drama with most of the action taking place in New York City. Several times, which is to say several episodes, have focused on Muslims as innocent bystanders or victims, as domestic terrorists, as misunderstood and bullied people in the neighborhood, or as FBI agents. At times, in my book, the show can get a bit woke preachy, lecturing me, the viewer, on how I should think better of Muslim citizens when they know nothing about my view of such folks. But I get what the show is doing and find the plots and action plausible and interesting, so I keep watching. Just last evening, we watched an FBI episode from 4 years ago, in which one of the FBI agents, who in the storyline is a Middle Eastern American, born and raised in the city, served his country in Afghanistan, and is now a respected agent, is put in the middle of a freedom versus security plot. In this plot, 2 Muslim men turn out to indeed be domestic terrorists looking to blow up targets in the city. But the local mosque imam, a friend of the Muslim FBI agent, who has in the past worshipped at this mosque, does not know this and thinks the FBI focus on them is about discrimination and profiling. Meanwhile, another FBI agent pressures the imam to the point of physical altercation, accuses him of lying, and threatens his and the mosque well-being with no legal basis for doing so. Only this is leverage to learn what the agent wants to learn. Then the imam blames his friend, Muslim FBI agent, who's standing by, just doing his job and trying to maintain some decorum. So much of the episode's story is about the angst and soul-searching that the young Muslim FBI agent experiences in the process of doing his work. He knows there are risks and a need to take action in the interests of security. He knows some local Muslims may have knowledge, but he holds back in the interest of protecting their freedoms, assuming innocence. Later in the program, he's called into his head agent's office and must answer for why he did what he did or did not do. What took him so long, and why was he, in the lead agent's view, overly concerned with the freedom of a person of interest when such severe security concerns existed? I've watched another FBI episode where, again, the plot turned on this Muslim agent's conundrum as he's put in the middle of freedom versus security. In this instance, some local Muslim people, who are all innocent in this case, yet were pinched, as they say in law enforcement, leveraged to get the bad guy. Now, almost 2 years ago, I produced 2 podcasts dealing with digital identification. I called them Digital Identification in a Brave New World and Digital Identification in the End Times. I noted that we now live in a mass surveillance digital world. Likely there is not a week goes by that you and I are not recorded somehow, some way in what we view, read, purchase online, perhaps where we go. Today, a track and trace society has begun rapidly developing on at least 5 levels. 1, mass surveillance, with CCTV cameras now located in public spaces in virtually every American city. 2, geolocation technology. 3, biometric technology, including fingerprints, facial recognition. 4, digital identification becoming a fundamental means of commerce and communication. And 5, digital banking and digital currency. Now, living in a mass surveillance track and trace society creates a persistent tension between freedom and security in a pluralistic society. Balancing these competing values becomes difficult. Too much emphasis on security can undermine liberty, while too little may weaken collective safety. Security suggests we want to live risk-free, but ironically, security risks our freedom. Well, we'll see you again soon. This podcast is about discerning what is best. If you find this thought-provoking and helpful, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And for more Christian commentary, see my website, REXM as in Martin. It's rexmrogers.com. Or check my YouTube channel at Dr. Rex Rogers. And remember, it is for freedom. Christ has set us free. Stand firm.